Okay. The only benefit that not the benefit to the city is that we would save $80,000 to $100,000 per year, and that savings is by being able to divert some leaf and yard waste that is currently part of the 75,000 ton put or pay limit. We could divert that to another facility.
Yes, Chair, that is correct. So the benefit is the difference in processing costs between the tonnage at Convertus, which is $126, not 126,000, $126.60 a ton, and the processing costs at Barnsdale are approximately $45 a ton. So that delta, so for 1,000 tons, that delta, as my accountant friend indicates, that savings is approximately $100,000, $80,000.
And in the report from March 2019 to April 2019 to March 2020, we've seen a nice increase, and that's great. How much yard and leaf waste is in that 82,000 tons currently?
So based on our analysis, we think approximately 45% of that tonnage that goes to Convertus is leaf and yard materials.
Okay, great. So the more that we can divert that to the other facility and process it at a lesser cost, the better advantage to the city. Great. The cost of 126 per ton. In the report says for North Grenville it would be subject to a CPI. What is the changes in that amount for us until the end of the contract in March 2030?
Chair, great question. So CPI is applied every year, and so we work closely with our colleagues in procurement in order to validate that amount, and then that amount then is applied to our rate moving forward.
And okay, and just my last question, that's subject to consumer price index benchmarking, not their cost of, not Convertus's cost of processing. It is a CPI increase, is that correct?
Chair, yes, that's correct. CPI is consumer price index, not specifically Convertus's costs.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you for this initiative and bringing this report. And thank you, Chair. That's all my questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it when you call me Monsieur le Président. It feeds my massive ego. So, Councillor Menard.
Thanks very much, Chair. And thanks to staff for the report. I support the recommendations in the report. I just have a few questions about it. It's indicating that the current capacity of the Convertus plant is 100,000 tons per year, and last year we delivered around 82,000 tons. Of course, our goal is to expand our organics program and increase our tonnage that goes to the plant. And the staff report mentions that we're continuing to review and examine similar proposals. That's on page 7 of the staff report. And that's where I really want to question is how many other municipalities in Eastern Ontario may feel like they want to expand their own programs and possibly utilize Ottawa. It could be approached for that. And what protections will be built into the contract to make sure that, as North Grenville and potentially other partners come on board, our own SSO takes precedence if we're going to be exceeding the 100,000 tons per year capacity of the plant. I don't anticipate we will, obviously, with this. It's a small amount comparatively. But as we get more to the land to Convertus and potentially other partners come on board, that could become an issue. So I just wanted to hear staff's response on that.
Chair, thank you for the question. So at this time, there has been one other municipality reach out to us inquiring. No explicit proposal, no explicit interest was shared. We're not intending to solicit, but basically by having council's approval with the second recommendation, it certainly provides the opportunity to explore if people do reach out to us. As mentioned in the presentation, we are continuously monitoring our tonnage in order to make sure that we are able to meet today and into the future that the citizens of Ottawa's needs. And as we craft the agreement, we'll ensure that there's appropriate language in order to make sure that the city takes, the city's position is first, so that our needs are met. And Council, as you know, the solid waste master plan continues, and through that we are exploring the 30-year horizon, and certainly looking then at what opportunities may exist after 2030 in order to have a viable option for the city's organics materials.
Thank you for that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it's important. I know when staff spoke to me that North Grenville was also aware of our situation with the contract and where that contract ends, and that we would have potentially partners going forward as well when it comes to the post 2030 horizon, when we look at where do we go with our organics, and that we'd actually be potentially looking at that together. So I think that's a positive as well. Thank you, Vice Chair. So Councillor McKenney.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, how's that?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm trying to outdo you. You have one painting behind you. I have two.
Thank you for this, Shelley. I obviously support the recommendation in front of us. I think it is a win-win. Certainly diverting waste, no matter where it is positive. I just had a couple of questions now that we have the opportunity. It's have the discussion around our organic diversion. I noted that the report does indicate that we continue to have that the incoming material continues to be a consistent mix of household organics and leaf and yard waste, and you had suggested that some 45% continues to be leaf and yard waste. So have we started diverting? Have we still accept all leaf and yard waste, even though we're above our put or pay threshold? We haven't yet started to divert any of that to Trail Road.
So Chair, so particularly in the spring and the fall during peak leaf and yard waste season, the contractors single stream the leaf and yard waste that is put out in the green bags, or sorry, the brown bags, or bundled, and so that material is brought to Barnsdale. So that's diverted from Convertus. So, okay. So far this year, we've sent about 4,700 tons of leaf and yard materials to Barnsdale. And as I mentioned, last year we had sent over 9,000 tons to Barnsdale. So the desire, as we're getting ready for this fall, is to try to reach the capacity of our Barnsdale facility, which is 15 to 17,000 tons. So we're working closely in order to see about diverting more of that leaf and yard material to Barnsdale for our composting facility there.
Okay, so then I guess my follow-up question is, do we have any indication yet the increase? So if we had 82,595 tons processed between April 2019 and March 2020, do we know what the increase in organic diversion was as a result of introducing plastic bags into the green bin?
So Chair, as part of the Phase 2 Solid Waste Master Plan report, which is coming soon, we will be reporting on the performance of the enhanced green bin program with the introduction of allowing plastics as well as dog and dog waste. So that will be specifically spoken to as part of the Phase 2 report.
Okay, okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor DeRusse.
Thank you, Chair. I know I had the same concern. Councillor McKenney just asked the question, and I hear you, Shelley. We're looking forward to get that report to see the enhanced program, how it's performing. And I want to add my comment also to the Chair that I'm very happy and welcoming this agreement. I know that it's always good to help our small municipality around us, our neighboring, and also if we can help them keeping those waste and those stuff out of their place where they throw their garbage, which is to help their landfill. That will be great and welcoming by us. So thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks staff for a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. After all, our predecessors were small municipalities as well, certainly with Rideau Township, Goulburn Township, and Osgood Township. Thank you, Councillor DeRusse. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Chair. And just on that note, to start off, Councillor DeRusse is right. I do think there's, I wouldn't say an onus, but we're surrounded by municipalities that are under 50,000. And I'm looking at the staff recommendation in addition to the financial or monetary savings, which, let's be frank, are minor. There's environmental savings and environmental reasons why this is a good deal. And I think that if there are opportunities to, as staff talk to our neighboring staff, to say, hey, we're open to future possibilities here. If you don't have an organics program, that this is something we could have a conversation over, to let our staff know that we are supportive of those conversations. Ms. McDonald, where does North Grenville's organic matter go now?
So Chair, currently North Grenville doesn't have a source separated organics program. So all of their materials that are collected at curbside are going to landfill.
Right. Okay. Very well. So this is certainly good news in that regard. And are you aware of, again, through the Chair, any provincial push to encourage smaller municipalities to talk with larger municipalities to do exactly what we've done here?
Chair, no, I'm not aware at this time, and certainly I welcome you as Chair of AMO to possibly see some of those opportunities moving forward.
Yeah, I certainly think there's an opportunity for the province to give some seed money to encourage folks to have those conversations. But I've certainly noted your suggestion and would be happy to raise that at AMO. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. No, I think it's that's kind of, I think that's the theme today, is just that partnership, the benefits of that partnership with one of our neighbor municipalities, knowing that for them to enter in programs like this, it's not easy. We know what the city went through to enter into an organics program, and how long that took. And we're a city now of 1 million people. It's not. I know that other municipalities have reached out in the past to try to, because they've been trying to get solutions to waste processing in their municipalities, but they need a big partner themselves, which means they actually want our garbage so that they can do something in their municipality. So it is something that is important, and small municipalities will need to have good partners in order to find successes on this file. Councillor Kavanagh, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. I'm a little late to the party. I was just out of breakfast, but always one of my favorite topics here. I appreciate the report on the on this bonding of working with other municipalities, smaller ones. I think that's great. My question is related to what are we doing to encourage our residents to do more in terms of the recycling and leaf and waste compost? Are we trying to encourage the leaf pickup? Is there anything that we as councillors can do to encourage people? Is that something that we should be working on?
Chair, as part of the enhanced program, there was quite a communication campaign that was launched last year. With the onset of COVID, certainly there have been lots of messaging when it comes to waste collection that had been put out there. As we explore how we're wanting to plan for fall, certainly we would love to have the support of council to help get some of those targeted messages out. So we will get back to you most definitely, but I think that there certainly is an opportunity, and we would love to engage with council in order to support any messaging in order to promote leaf and yard collection.
Well, personally, I would be happy to, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree, especially because we can talk about not just the environmental impact, but it's cost saving in the long term as well. And I think that it's good to give that information out. So I'd love to work with you on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councillor King has
thank you,
jumped
Mr.
on the
President.
list.
And thank you, Shelley, for the excellent presentation and even the pre-consultation, the information that you provided my office before this meeting has been very helpful. One of the questions I had was, I know that staff is indicating that they are not going out and undertaking outreach to municipalities to participate in this program. Is this something that we, by policy, are barred from doing, and is it something that we should pursue? Obviously, I'd acknowledge that the city has to obviously take care of its own programs and its own requirements, but I was just wondering if that is something that we are looking at. And I guess a question that's linked to that as well is this is obviously a 2% increase in the amount of tonnage that is collected. Is there an internal number for external groups that we might be working with, external municipalities, that would be our maximum percentage number in terms of tonnage?
So Chair, great question. When we're taking a look at the numbers since 2015, we've seen the program grow. And once we have some better insight from the participation studies, as well as the fulsome audit, we'll probably have better intel in order to know more definitively what that possible ceiling percentage might be. At this time, I think we want to start small in order to make sure that we're managing expectations, not only from the agreement perspectives with our with whatever internal partners we join with, as well as not wanting to make it too complicated for ourselves in the ongoing monitoring of the program in order to make sure that we're able to meet the City of Ottawa expectations. For the first question, we're wanting to be respectful of our partner Convertis, and so the contractual agreement that we have with them. So at this time, I think that we're, we're open to, if others reach out to us, and Councillor, to your point, certainly staff have a lot on their plates, and so if directed to do so, absolutely, we could be playing more of an advocacy role and reaching out. But at this time, the recommendations as per the report are basically being open to have those conversations if such municipalities are looking to enter into an organics program.
Well, thank you for those answers, and I will definitely be supporting this report. Thanks.
Thanks. I actually think, I think North Grenville reaching out to us it makes it easier. I think a lot of the times the challenge is we're not the GTA. We're a massive city amidst a bunch of small municipalities, and often we're seen as the big bad city. And I think it'd be interesting to see how that conversation would go if it was going the other way and it was us engaging and us advocating to small municipalities to come do something with us. I'm not necessarily sure it would be received the same way as North Grenville comes to us. Just a thought. So I see nothing else on this. So again, thanks to staff for their effort on this, and thank you, I should say, thanks to North Grenville as well for their efforts, and I know their council for taking a step in this direction and to work with the city and to advocate for this on behalf of their municipality. So the report recommendation is that the Standing Committee on Environment Protection, Water and Waste Management recommend that council delegate authority to the General Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services in consultation with the city solicitor to negotiate, finalize, and execute a contract with the municipality of North Grenville in accordance with this report and including any amendments by council. And 2, delegate authority to the General Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services in consultation with the city solicitor to negotiate, finalize, and execute contracts with other potential partners where the terms and conditions are consistent with the proposed agreement framework as detailed in this report. So is that item carried?
Carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Jason. On to item number 2, which is the 2019 Drinking Water Quality Management System Report. In a nutshell, we still kick ass, but we're going to go and do a report and a presentation on this as well. I think Tammy is here. There she is. And Ian Douglas.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, Chair. Morning, councillors. Thank you for giving us the opportunity today to talk about our drinking water quality management system and a general status update on how well our systems are doing. And I have with me today Ian Douglas, who is a water quality engineer for the city, and he will be taking us through the presentation.
That's great. Thank you, Tammy. Good morning, and we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about our drinking water, and we're very proud of our drinking water in Ottawa, and today is a report card on our 2019 report. Okay, next slide, please. I think it's important that we maybe take a brief moment to reflect. It's been about 20 years ago in May, that Walkerton occurred. And that event, fundamentally changed drinking water in Ontario and in fact throughout Canada. One of the key recommendations that Justice O'Connor came up with was that a quality management system ought to be developed for drinking water systems due to the importance and the connection with public health. And today is kind of the fruit of that recommendation. Following Walkerton, a series of regulations, fairly comprehensive ones, were released in Ontario under the Safe Drinking Water Act, which notably for councillors includes a standard of care provision that it is your duty as the owners of our water system to be informed, to be aware of any shortcomings or challenges within those systems, and to be vigilant, providing oversight and direction to staff. And our report today is part of fulfilling that duty. Okay. Our quality management system, it's similar to, you've probably heard of ISO 9000 and similar systems. It's a very comprehensive framework that governs everything to do with safe drinking water. There's 21 elements. Every aspect of operation, monitoring, maintenance, staff, as well as continual improvement is covered in the quality management system. And I would say it requires a lot of work from staff. I can say that personally, but we feel good having the framework. It keeps us on track and it keeps us focused on any gaps and in continual improvement. So we might complain at times about the workload, but we appreciate having it, and it makes sense for drinking water to have such a system. Okay. Next slide, please. So I'm going to give a very brief report. We do prepare a management review report every year. It's well over 1,000 hours of staff time go into this report. It's 100 pages. We meet for about 4 days reviewing the contents of the report, but it's a very important part of reflecting on how are we doing, what are the gaps, are there any challenges and things we need to be addressing. But I'll give you the short version today. We report up to a senior management team, and it's that report that we're bringing forward to you today. We call it the A to P report. It simply has sections A through P, so we affectionately call it that. Next slide, please. Just to remind you, we have 8 water systems that we operate in Ottawa. 90% of our residents get their water from the central supply. You can see the 2 plants, Britannia, Lemieux Island, who draw water from the Ottawa River. But we also have 6 communal well systems in some of the rural areas of the city. And in that case, we provide water from a standalone well system. And we have a new one. You can see we gave birth to Richmond West well system in 2019. It was commissioned in April. And this supplies the Western development lands in Richmond with, I think, an intended population of about 1,000 residents. And the photograph shows the inside of the treatment facility. It's also notable that these well systems collectively, about 1% of our population get their water from these well systems, but they are very important in those communities. The remainder of residents get their water from private wells, which of course are their own responsibility. Okay, next slide, please. Now this graph, just out of interest, last year, we pumped an average of 285 million liters of water per day into the city. And this graph shows sort of the trend in our water production over the last 50 years. You can see a gradual incline over the 60s and 70s and 80s, resulting in kind of a flatlining during the 90s for about 15 years, and then eventually a decline in how much water we are producing. And yet at the same time, the population, which is the dotted line, has steadily been increasing. So you can see that there was quite dramatic changes in the per capita water usage due to water efficient appliances and so on through the years. And that has caused some challenges in terms of revenue for water services. Okay, next slide, please. Lead, I know we've spoken to committee and council in the past, and it continues to be a concern across the country. Last year, Health Canada lowered the standard from 10 down to 5 for lead in drinking water due to increased concerns for health risks in children. This spawned a fair bit of media attention, and in fact, last September and October, we had 500 requests for doing tap water lead testing in customer homes, and we were able to meet that demand. The short answer is we've known about this change, and we have a good program in place, and we're delivering on that program. We have a new treatment process that will further reduce lead, and we currently comply with all the lead regulations. So I think we're in pretty good shape, but it's something we're watching and working on. Next slide. Nitrate levels have occurred in the Shadow Ridge well system since it was started. You can see over the first 10 years a gradual increase in levels of nitrate, but in the last few years it has lined out and currently is sitting around 3.5 milligrams per liter of nitrate, which is well within the safe drinking water standard of 10 milligrams per liter, but is still a concern long term. And for that reason, deeper wells are currently in development and construction, and there are test wells underway to get to a deeper part of the aquifer that doesn't have the presence of nitrate. Next slide, please. In addition to all the audits that take place, we get inspected every year by the Ministry of Environment. It's a comprehensive inspection. ever since Walkerton. These have been taking place. So each of our systems, it's about a 2-day inspection, reviewing records, interviewing operators, looking at trends, documents, water quality data. They issue a report, and the report includes a percentage rating. And you can see that we've consistently scored very high, mostly 100%. You'll notice the little arrow that last year, Lemieux Island, the inspector noticed one of the logbook entries was incomplete and cited that as a non-compliant. So we got slightly less than 100%, but still a pretty strong report card for all of our water systems. Next. This year we had one fairly minor action item that came out of the review. In all of our well systems, we analyze bacteria in the source wells twice per week. And over 25 years, we've never detected an E. coli bacteria. But occasionally, we will see total coliform bacteria. It's just sort of an early warning for us to take action. And so we decided we should really have a consistent procedure for responding to those results if and when they occur. So that's underway. Next. Last year, I'm sure recall that there was pretty severe flooding in the river. This graph shows, over the year from January to December, that the dotted black line is sort of the long-term average flow that the Ottawa River would exhibit. You can see that 2019 batted it clearly out of the park. So we had unprecedented flows, 2 to 3 times higher than normal. And so next slide, please. In response, the plants, this shows some berm walls and sandbagging that was deployed at Lemieux Island to try to keep water out of the facility. Worked quite well. Throughout the entire event, we mobilized staff and we had an uninterrupted supply of safe water throughout. So the plants handled it really well and staff stepped up. We have a very robust treatment. The river quality was not a challenge at all for the plants to handle. Maybe next slide shows a picture. This is inside our pump house, our low lift pump house at Lemieux Island, where we also deployed some sandbagging to keep any floodwater from coming into the treatment basins directly. It never did come in, but we wanted to be sure. Next slide. We also had some help. So this is military were deployed to help build very rapidly some extensive sandbagging. This is at Britannia, but at both plants, we really appreciated the help they provided. It was quite something to see them in operation, getting the job done. So we appreciated that. Okay. Also, each year, there seem to be new concerns or issues raised. Drinking water, of course, affects our health. So there's always new studies and research. Ottawa, these are some of the things that came up last year. And Ottawa always prides itself in being ahead of the curve. So in each one of these substances of concern, we've already been monitoring these things for 3 or 4 years, and none of them posed a challenge or a threat to the safety of our water quality. So that's something that we're constantly looking for any emerging issues so that when regulations come, we're prepared and we know if we need to alter treatment or adjust our operations. Thank you. Next slide. So as an overall comment, I think our system is doing very well. We feel confident that the quality management system is working well. As I say, it represents a large amount of staff effort, but we're very proud of our water system in Ottawa and the quality of our water. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we are known quite well across Canada as one of the leaders in drinking water, but we don't rest on our laurels. And so the management system keeps us looking inward, looking to see, are there any gaps? Are there any concerns or issues that we can improve on? And I can tell you personally that our staff team are talented and very motivated. We have a great reason to come to work every day, which is providing safe water to the city residents, and we feel strongly about that. I think the last slide might just show a little bit of an advertisement at the end of our talk today, but maybe go to the final slide. I want to thank you for your time this morning. We'd be happy to field any comments or questions from council members.
Thank you very much, Ian and Lisa and Tammy, for your work. Appreciate that presentation and the work that you do. I know that Richmond facility has been open for a little while now, and there's over 200 homes there. But actually, the build out of that community on that well system is upwards of, I think, over 2,000 units eventually. So it could become the largest communal well system that we operate. And of course, when we did our growth plan a few months ago, Richmond is the community that will see the most amount of growth over the next, has the most capacity, with potential addition of 5,000 units in all of Richmond, which is quite something when there's only 2,000 units there currently. All right, well, thank you. We do have some questions from members of committee. We'll start with Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to staff. I mean, this is, let's be frank, this is a good news story. It's always been a good news story. I think that the residents of Ottawa don't know how good we've got it. If you look around the world, the battle for water, clean water, is going to be, I think, the issue of this century. And in Ottawa, we have it pretty good as far as the quality and our source. So this is very good to see both the present day challenges that you have, but you've also identified some of the future challenges going forward. So thank you. Are sandbags our best defense mechanism for Lemieux Island going forward? Are we thinking about building a concrete berm or a wall? Are we thinking about protecting that facility better than relying on the Army?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's an excellent question. Obviously, you know, there are some concurrent emergencies going on right now, and so the availability of the military to come in these times is, you know, maybe difficult. And so we are working with our partners in planning, infrastructure, and economic development. So through the climate resiliency piece of for the city, as you know, we've seen through this committee, there's been an update through Julia's work on the climate projections for this area. So that was an important first step to take in order to understand what is it that we're facing as a region. And so what are we designing to? What's going to be what we think is not necessarily the worst case scenario, but what we think is a likely scenario in terms of flooding. So we will continue to work with Julia to move forward and then move into vulnerability assessments. And we will be working with our partners in our asset management group to look at options and then start implementing them.
The cost, though, to build a concrete wall is small compared to Lemieux Island not being operational for months because of it's being overrun, flooded, contamination. I have no idea what it would take to get that facility back up in line to produce clean water, but I'm surprised we have not been moving a bit further. We've had a couple floods now this decade. We're probably going to get more, and Lemieux Island will probably be threatened again. So, you know, the levees in New Orleans were fixed right after Katrina because they foresaw more hurricanes. We are foreseeing more flooding in our future. So I just don't want Ottawa's drinking water to be threatened when we know what some of the risks are out there. So I just wanted to plant that. The other risk I just wanted to mention or to ask you about were lead pipes, the private lead pipes going into some homes. For homeowners who do not proceed with replacement in the short term, is there any threat on the drinking water? Just explain to us, I guess, how a lead pipe from private property marries up or matches with the city pipes to ensure that there isn't any type of contamination to the water that is not going to that particular household.
Yeah, Chair, that's an excellent question. So basically the water we produce at the plants and in fact throughout the distribution system is lead free. So there's no lead in it. But you're correct that when the water travels from the main, typically in the middle of the street, to the service post at the property line and then further into the house, for about 30,000 homes, that initially was a lead pipe that was installed. And so, you know, trace amounts of lead can be absorbed or solubilized during that transport. And so to counteract that, we use corrosion control. We adjust the chemistry of our water. We adjust the pH currently up to 9.4. And it also protects our water mains. So that's another benefit. But even still, there are trace amounts that in some homes would exceed the Health Canada standard of 5. And we have some homes where it exceeds 10. I can tell you that most homes, we've been to about 6,000 homes in the city testing over the years. Most homes are in the range of 1 to 5 parts per billion of lead, even for the water passing through the lead service. But we do have some homes that maybe have a long service line, might be 100 feet long. And in some cases, we do see numbers higher than 5 and 10. The new corrosion strategy that we're designing right now will reduce lead levels by about 70%. But even today, we are meeting the standards for Ontario for lead in drinking water. Can some homes have higher than that lead levels? Yeah, that's possible. And in those cases, we encourage people to use filters are very effective at removing lead. And secondly, to strongly consider removing those lead pipes. The lead pipes are the primary exposure point for lead, that they are the primary contribution.
Can you remind the committee, the City of Ottawa has contacted homeowners who we believe have lead pipes to alert them to this fact, encouraging them to look into replacement?
That's right, Councillor. We're actually in the middle of an outreach campaign that got paused because of COVID, but we are issuing about 30,000 letters and pamphlets to those homes that we feel are likely to have lead services. And there's an incentive of about $1,000 to encourage them. We assist them in finding the contractor and getting the work done. So that's underway. We also have that information on our website to encourage that. But it did get paused a little bit during COVID, and now we're back running again.
So those letters are about to go out, or have they gone out?
I think the first batch of about 8,000 went out.
Okay.
And I believe we're now mobilizing to do the second batch.
Can we just get a copy of that letter? Because I think about a year ago, a number of inquiries came through my office. I have some residents have lead pipes, and just to make sure I understand what you're communicating with them so my staff can be able to respond.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thanks very much. Good presentation.
Thank
Cheers.
You. Thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd really like to thank both Ian and Tammy for the excellent presentation and for the excellent work that you do. I think that the reality, of course, at the city, and I really tout this at the city, is despite all the challenges around COVID-19, essential services continued. So water continued. I mean, that was absolutely important. Our garbage services, waste removal continued. And I really, often at many opportunities, I really thank staff for the hard work that they undertook as the community went into precautionary lockdown. So I was just wondering if you could speak about the continuity measures regarding staff concerning COVID-19. What plans have been put in place, or what plans are in place to ensure that if there's any challenges to the workforce, that our operations continue?
Mr. Chair, this is a very timely question and topic, and so we took pretty restrictive measures back in the spring. There were a lot of unknowns. Every day, every hour, it seems we were getting new information and new updates, and the government shutdowns, and things were moving so fast. And we had, obviously, there were also issues with health and safety, supply chains, and PPE. So proactively, we went on to staff rotation in order to minimize people working together as much as possible. We also took the measure of employees that can work from home should work from home, and we continue to have that implemented to this day. What we've been able to do since March is stabilize the health and safety and PPE requirements so that our staff can work safely together. Not all of the work that we do is done independently. A lot of it is done in a crew base. So it's very important for us to make sure that our procedures and policies were in place to safely work in proximity, and ensuring that we have adequate supplies of our health and safety and PPE. So we've been able to then ramp back up our full operation as of mid-June, and basically, knock on wood, our employees have also remained healthy throughout this crisis and pandemic. This coming fall, we're all watching to see what is going to happen with schools reopening, and we're starting to see rises in cases in Ottawa and Gatineau. So we are monitoring, I'm going to say, absenteeism on a regular basis to see if there are any trends. Currently, the Ontario government has emergency orders that affects water and wastewater services. So because we run complex systems and we need licenses, and our employees need licenses to do some of the work. And so what the government has allowed us to do is waive that requirement, provided that we can vouch for that person's training and competency and put them at work. So our worst case scenario is we would have to go again and reduce the number of employees that we have working at any given time. We've been able to show that we can sustain operations at a level probably below 50%, but it does come at an operational and infrastructure cost. So from a maintenance perspective, we can't keep going at those levels for very long. So we would have to bring people back into the workplace. So at least with the emergency orders from the province, we have the flexibility to bring in people, train them up, and ensure that they have the competency to do that work. So essentially, we are confident, and we have also identified employees that may not be in water services right now, but may have worked with us in the past or have the training and the knowledge in order to do that. So through the work with Human Resources this spring, we've identified a list of those employees that we can ask to get seconded to water services if we reach those critical staff levels this coming fall and winter.
Well, I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I commend the efforts of all staff who are ensuring that our drinking water is safe. I know in the report, you did outline pathogens and monitoring for pathogens. So I wanted to ask, do we have the technological capability in place today to detect coronavirus in the city's wastewater? I've read about different initiatives in other municipalities, and the potential of having pathogen monitoring as a tool to determine the rates of infection within the municipality. So I was just curious whether we actually had the technological capacity to do so.
Yes, so very early on, we were approached by a number of universities that were conducting research and essentially wanted to develop a bit of a model. And in order to, I think what some of the early research has been able to determine is if there is a spike or an increase in COVID cases, there have been preliminary research that have shown that you can actually see that increase in wastewater days ahead of any impact to hospitals and the actual test results coming back from people getting tested. So we've been involved, most importantly, with the University of Ottawa, and they also have epidemiologists from CHIO, and they have a number of research partners, and we're working very closely with Public Health, Ottawa Public Health, on this initiative. So it's an ongoing research project right now, and the model results are looking very promising. So that work continues today.
I appreciate that, and it'd be wonderful if the community could at some point get a report, whether that's formal or informal, about those efforts. I think that would be helpful for us as decision makers, and also to get a sense that there are extra tools that are actually being utilized to really measure rates of infection within our community. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Cloutier.
Thank you very much, Chair. And Tammy, Ian, thank you very much. And like Councillor Brockington said, like Councillor King said, thank you for your work in sustaining this essential service throughout the pandemic and in the years prior to it, keeping the system going. From just picking up on Councillor King and COVID, so I understand that the pandemic's had an impact on your operations with respect to supplying the employees with personal protective equipment. Is that correct?
So to this date, we've been able to put orders in through the Emergency Operations Center, and we've been able to get all of the supplies. We did use N95 masks for certain tasks. And obviously these coveted masks are really being used in the hospital setting only. So we've been able to go to an alternative, either a full face or a half face mask with respirators and cartridges. And so far we've been able to have a steady supply of that critical PPE. And so while everything was stabilizing, we didn't run into any issues to making sure that our critical services had the appropriate levels.
And that lack of PPE and the pandemic and the emergency order has caused that you've reduced staff somewhat and that you have deferred some maintenance on some systems, always keeping in mind the risk. Is that also correct? Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. And so that's why it was important for us to working very closely with the EOC to making sure that as a priority, we need to get our staff back as quickly as possible to get back into operating and maintaining the infrastructure. And so working closely with the EOC to ensure that we would get a continuous supply of the PPE and the health and safety supplies was critical in us being able to do that safely.
Has the pandemic or the border closure, the interruption of economic activity had any impact on parts, chemical supply chain, and anything like that that comes either from within Canada or from elsewhere?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that is a very good question. So that was something that we were monitoring very closely in the spring and as the borders were closing. And so with our critical suppliers, such as our chemicals, they have alternate ways to getting supply into Canada. So some of them were coming from the States, but if that became an issue, they would go to other suppliers in Canada. But to our knowledge, they didn't have to implement that contingency measures. So because these essential services and products are able to cross the border, that hasn't been an issue for us in Ottawa.
And you have, can you tell us a little bit about the contingency plans if there is a second wave and another subsequent shutdown, what the plans of the department are to ensure that we have the chemicals, the expertise, the parts that we need to maintain and sustain the system?
Yeah, so there is there was no supply chain disruption in the spring, and we are not anticipating any supply chain disruptions coming up as well. It is something that we continue to monitor, but at this point, that won't be an issue as far as we can tell. And obviously, we are very focused on maintaining the health of our employees. So we did implement, before it became mandatory that in our facilities, only those people that have to work in the facilities are in those facilities, whether it be a contractor if there's a capital project, or our maintenance workers, or our 24/7 shift operators. Everybody else is asked to stay at home. So we have to maintain the integrity of the health of the facilities and our employees. So we've taken a number of precautions to make sure that those employees stay safe, that they wear masks in common areas. Even though there are less people in the facility, they must be wearing those masks as well. So we've taken those best practices from OPH and have applied that to our facilities as well. And so we have managers and supervisors on site that make sure that, we are promoting physical distancing as a primary approach as much as possible.
Okay. And again, the 2019 report is outstanding, as they always are, as they have been since I've been councillor, and I appreciate it. My questions are all forward-looking. We talked about COVID. Councillor Brockington talked about Lemure Island and how to best protect it in the event of a flood. What is the greatest vulnerability of the safe water drinking system? Is it flooding? Is it supply chain interruption? Is it lack of well-trained employees? What's the greatest vulnerability?
Mr. Chair, it's, in the last 5 years, we've been thrown into various floods, tornadoes, sinkholes, pandemics. I can't wait to see what 2021 brings us. But I think what we've been able to see is that we have very robust systems, we have robust programs, infrastructure, and we have people in place as well that are very knowledgeable and very dedicated to the work that we do. So we do weather those storms, to pardon the pun, and we've been able to make improvements as we go along. So at this point in time, it's difficult to say if any one emergency could really have a significant impact. But to date, we've had historic floodings and a 1 in a 1 year sort of 1 in 100 year pandemic, and we've been able to maintain our services. And so, as part of the quality management system, there is a philosophy within our service around continual improvement. So not only do we respond to the crisis or to the emergency that's in front of us, but we're also making sure that we're taking into consideration lessons learned and that we are continuing to improve. And I think in the last 5 years, we've been, incrementally making those changes, and I think our systems are now robust, and so we're pretty confident in our service. But obviously, as things change, we need to be sort of flexible about that as well. So we're always very vigilant.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cloutier. And we move on to Councillor DeRuse, home of the Shadow Ridge drinking water system.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After Councillor Cloutier asked all these questions, I don't know if we have any question left, but I still have a small question. Ian, thank you very much for the presentation. I know that, like the chair mentioned, I have a question concerning Shadow Ridge too. I know we're idling at 3.5 nitrate level right now, and that's within the drinking safety water. That's fine. And I know that you mentioned a little bit about that the testing well and about some the deeper well. Can we please give me a quick update? I know Tammy is here ready probably to answer some of the question. Can you give me kind of a little update on what we are, and if there is any good news with the testing well that we already implemented last year and give me some new time frame. I know that probably COVID delayed you a bit. Can you just give me a quick update on what's going on? That really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Chair. The early boreholes and test wells were done about a year ago, and they showed some excellent water quality in the deeper aquifer. I just got an update yesterday from our hydrogeologist, and they're currently drilling a full test well that allows them to evaluate the water deeper in the aquifer and also design the well. Even a drilled well has to be designed. So that's taking place right now. I think he said the results are expected in the fall, so fairly soon. The indications are that once they get to the lower aquifer, we're not seeing any nitrate at all. It'll be much deeper and more secure water source long term, whether it be nitrate or some other contaminant. That's long term the best solution. There was a little bit of concern about iron. There might be a little bit of iron in the middle aquifer, so we prefer to get deep enough to avoid the iron. It's a bit of an aesthetic problem. You might know about that in Munster and a few of our other source wells. So my understanding is that the work's proceeding well, and this fall we should have results and be ready to design the new wells.
So you think by the fall we will be able to kind of give some update to the community, just because I know we've been having a lot of questions, people concerned?
Yeah, I think that would be certainly possible from the project team. Yeah, I'll take that back.
And from the capacity point of view, I think, did we determine that the capacity is good and it's going to be able to accommodate that whole subdivision like we spoke before?
Mr. Chair, so at this point in time, there are no new building permits for Shadow Ridge. So there are ongoing negotiations with the owner, and part of that is an increase in capacity of the well system at Shadow Ridge. So until that increased capacity is in place at the water treatment plant, there's probably not going to be any building permits at this time.
I know that, I appreciate that, Tammy, but also do we know, because those wells, we need to make sure that they also have the capacity for future development. And I remember that we were talking about that last year, but I didn't get the full update. If we were hoping that we have enough capacity, I just want to know that.
Oh yeah, sorry, I think I misunderstood your question. So yes, yes, as part of the design of the new wells that we are digging and drilling in Shadow Ridge, is to ensure that it is for future growth as well, not just for the existing system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the update.
Thank you, Councillor. And now Councillor Kavanagh, home of the Britannia.
Yes, very much the home of Britannia. I'm so proud. I'm one of your biggest fans for sure. We're very proud to have Britannia filtration plant right there in my backyard, practically.
Yeah.
Up until recently, I was swimming just outside of it, so with one of your engineers, actually. So yeah. It's been, I can tell you it's clean.
Good.
A lot of work has been done in Britannia. We've got the dredging project going on at the beach, and I've been asked, has that got any effect, or have you guys been consulted about that while that's been going on?
Thank you, Chair. To my knowledge, we haven't been involved in that, but I should mention that we do monitor bacteria and water quality at Britannia's intake daily. And in fact, we take some continuous readings as well. So it'll be interesting for us to see if there's any disruption. In terms of changes to the river water quality, I can't see anything there that wouldn't be handled by the treatment barriers we have in place. Whether we get floods or heavy windstorms or tornadoes, the river gets stirred up. There's no problem for the treatment that we have engineered at the plant. But to my knowledge, I don't think we've been involved in that, and we're aware of it, but we'll be monitoring the water quality as things move forward.
Okay, thanks. I just want to let residents know about it. Nothing drives me more crazy than to see empty water bottles, left along the river bank. It's kind of ironic, and I just want to do everything I can to discourage people from buying that stuff. is, have you got any recommendations to help me with this? And I think for everyone, because it still seems to be a trend that people feel that they must run out and buy bottled water, and then they throw their bottles right in the river. It's just, anyway. People can read till the cows come home how good our water is, but how can we really get them to make the switch and drink our wonderful water?
Maybe I can respond quickly, and Tammy may want to add to it. But yeah, there's a psychology piece that is sort of been built into our culture, that having a bottle of water is something that you have to have at all times, and that it's safer. It has a picture of a mountain on the bottle, and people associate that with purity and what have you. But I agree that the tap water is extremely high quality and is tested rigorously. I have full confidence in it, but how do we convince the public of that? So we did have a campaign that was scheduled to happen this spring to really promote our water quality. And I think it's been a little bit paused because of COVID. There was also talk of perhaps partnering to get like a water truck to go to different events, branded potentially with City of Ottawa, this great water, so that people at sports events, running events, cultural events could just see that constant use of our city water rather than bottles being distributed. So that, I believe, is in the works with our public and outreach team. May have been paused a little bit because of COVID, though.
Yeah, well, put me on the list. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I said to respond to a text from my son who's texting me from school, showing me his new mask. I texted him back. I said, get to work, get an education, put your phone away. Sheesh. Of course, I shouldn't be looking at my phone either. I'm chairing a committee. All right. So thank you. I see no further questions from members of committee. Thank you again, Ian, Tammy. I know Lisa Juniak is on as well. So appreciate your work again, and another standard quality report here, just off the charts. I assume that 99.3% score resulted in someone's firing, though. I mean, let's be honest.
Maybe we could say that the logbook entries are just a little bit better now. So.
That's good. I expect nothing short of hundreds from here on out. All right. So the recommendation for committee is that the committee receive the 2019 management review report of the drinking water quality management system. Received. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So that is it for the regular agenda. In-camera items, there are none. Information previously distributed. It is a report on the use of delegated authority during 2019 by the Public Works and Environmental Services Departments as set out in Schedule I of Bylaw 2019-280. Notices of motion. I don't believe we have any notices of motion. Chris, I don't think so.
I have received none, Chair.
All right. I do believe we have inquiries, though. I know at least I saw one from Councillor King. So we'll start there.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to submit an inquiry surrounding clean water supply in private wells. The questions that I'm going to pose in the inquiry are: what legal obligations does the city have to ensure that citizens on private wells have a continuous clean water supply? What studies must be conducted when blasting is required within 500 meters of a private functional well and septic system? What will the city do if the water table is affected and water is not available or becomes polluted? What additional protections are afforded by city residents in Ottawa when an area is deemed a drinking water protected zone?
Thanks. Are you talking about like the source water protection area?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good. There's a lot of good information on that from the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. Well, I guess the various conservation authorities that we have, they work together on the source water protection plans for the city and beyond. Any other queries? I think I recall only seeing the one from Councillor King. Am I correct? All right. Thank you. So other business, I will say that I know Councillor Eglai had to leave us and join us. He's rejoined us after doing some Board of Health work. And even though we actually did touch on a lot of COVID stuff here, I guess it's the nature of the beast. You know, interesting though, yesterday, I saw the numbers for today. Yesterday, we had 28,000 tests in the province of Ontario, conducted 28,000 tests. The country of Guinea has done 28,000 tests over the entire course of the pandemic, and they have 10,000 cases. Ontario only has 44,000 cases, proven cases since the start. It's good numbers. I mean, the population of Ontario compared to American states, we'd be the 5th highest populated state if we were in America, but we'd rank 35th in terms of overall cases. So Ontario is doing great work. I know Ottawa is doing good work. I know it's tough right now with some new cases, 51 confirmed today, but appreciate the work of the Board of Health and Councillor Eglai and everyone over at Ottawa Public Health.
If I can just jump in, thanks for the kind words, Chair. And just everybody, you would have got a notice last night that there's a technical briefing tomorrow on the testing process in Ottawa. So anything you want to know, need to know, have to know, please tune in tomorrow afternoon, and we'll have somebody from Ottawa Hospitals there and Crick and able to answer all your questions.
Thanks. I've heard some rumblings that there's no testing center in Orleans. I don't know if that's just, I keep seeing that on Twitter. I'm not sure if that's true. Conversely, there's not one in Barrhaven or Canada. So who knew? Nothing else. I think we do have a media availability following this meeting. We'll start 15 minutes after in case anyone wishes to discuss the items today, primarily the first 2 items that we dealt with today. So I'll stick around for that. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Oh, on adjournment. Other business, there was none. That was just me talking. So on adjournment.
Adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next meeting is Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Do you know if there's a separate call-in for the media availability? I have to look at that.
I don't know, Chair.
Okay, no worries. It's likely in my inbox.
That would be Pimmer.
Yeah. Pimmer. Thanks, Chris.